Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be a yogi in Paris? Well, today we talk to Alejandra Buentello, and she tells us all about her practice, how it's changed her life, and how creativity goes right into yoga as well. So welcome to the show, Alejandra.
Hi, Crystal. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I was so happy to meet you at Amanda's little tea party. I met so many great people there, and I'm excited to share your story today.
Yeah, me too. This is the first podcast I've ever done, so thank you for initiating me. And I'm also really excited to talk about things that I wanted to talk about for a while and share with you and the world.
Of course. I always like to go back to the beginning of where someone came from, what brought them to France. So you grew up in Austin and then you came to Paris. So tell us more.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Austin, Texas. It's now like a big tech hub, but back in the day in the 60s, it was a hippie commune. And so when I was growing up, I really remember it that way, kind of weird and rootsy. And then I was studying at the University of Texas and got to come to Paris on a study abroad program. Loved it. It was my first time in Europe, and I basically just decided to stay. So it's been like 9 years since then, and I've been here doing a bunch of different stuff. And kind of just enjoying life here.
That's incredible. I think a lot of people come here as a student or a nanny, or they fall in love, and then you just don't know how things are going to domino.
Yeah. And Paris is one of those places where I didn't mean to stay for this long, but it's just so gorgeous and so alive, and it's kept me here.
It does that. It does that to a lot of us. It sucks us in. My first year here, I was like, I'm ready to get out of here. I hate this place. And 14 years later, I'm still here. So if you could describe your younger self stepping into yoga for the first time, what were you searching for?
Sure. So for me, I was a teenager, like I said, in these hippie circles of people doing lots of weird stuff. And it was quite natural. My friends were doing yoga at the park. And for me, it was really a physical activity. It's just kind of a form of exercise. And the more I got into it and the more I learned, it became really a spiritual practice and a spiritual path. And for me, through life and through growing up, particularly through mental health and mental illness challenges, I needed something to really support me. And yoga became, I think, in addition to just like family support and community, yoga was really the thing that I relied on most in that practice that I really needed to keep me kind of relatively safe and stable throughout these mental health challenges.
Definitely. It's helped so many people over the years. And you practice a very specific type of yoga. I'm sure I'm going to butcher this. Is it pronounced Ashtanga?
Ashtanga, yes.
Perfect. So it's a lot about discipline and structure. Talk a little bit about this practice.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ashtanga is very particular, very structured, requires a lot of discipline, and could say it's quite rigid, actually. Basically, what separates it from other types of yoga, like vinyasa, for example, or hatha, is that you have a defined sequence of postures. So you do the same postures in the same order every time you practice. And you're asked to practice 6 days a week as the sun's coming up, and except for moon days, which are full moon and new moon. And for women, you also don't practice during your period, or particularly the first 3 days of your period. But so yes, quite rigid, quite traditional. You practice the first thing in the morning, the same posture, same sequence. You chant in Sanskrit at the beginning of your practice and at the end. And yeah, it definitely requires a lot of discipline.
That's wild. Oh my goodness. So what do people like, how do they react to you like just being in a Paris park, like chanting and being up at sunrise?
Yeah, I think a lot of people find it scary. And especially, I mean, I teach. And one of the classes that I teach is for an absolute beginner. So it's like a foundations one class to introduce people to this, yoga in general or this style of yoga. And I always ask before class starts, have you ever done Ashtanga? Because chanting in Sanskrit is kind of creepy and scary if you don't know what you're saying and you don't know what's happening. I remember the first time I was in a class and we started chanting. I was like, what is going on? Why is everyone doing this? But then once you kind of get into it and the vibration of the voice and everyone's voices coming together and you learn what you're saying, it's really, really beautiful. And even in Paris, I mean, you can find deep meaning and deep spirituality and tradition in big cities, just like out in the top of the Himalayas. So Paris you can find everything here.
Yeah, definitely. I imagine if I had just started, I'd be like, did I just join a cult? Like, what happened?
Yeah. There's like a huge debate about this because there's a lot of cult elements in Ashtanga. And one of my teachers, I follow this kind of postmodern deconstructed lineage of Ashtanga now. And he just did a podcast about like all the overlapping, problematic sides of Ashtanga. And we are the lineage. So it's kind of our job to keep it a really safe space and make it a good thing for everyone.
Definitely. You want to promote that, not the cult things. And
Yeah.
where did it originate from?
So it's actually from the south of India. It's from a city called Mysore. And there was this Mysore palace where this man named Krishnamacharya was a yoga guru, and he was actually organizing performances basically of these young boys doing these really impressive postures. And then his student, whose name is Sri Pattabhi Jois, basically consolidated Krishnamacharya's teachings to make it this sequence that's the same that we practice every day. So it's kind of modern Ashtanga yoga that we're practicing now. And so Mysore is kind of like the Mecca of Ashtanga. And you can still go there and practice in the space that Pattabhi Jois created. And so that's where it comes from, South India.
That's incredible. So much history there and culture, and so many people going through this process. And
yes.
How has committing to a daily practice changed the way you move through the world outside the mat?
Oh my gosh. For me, it's really, really important to have this container because basically it's a moment where I connect with myself before moving outwards into the day and into the world. I think of it as like my cup of coffee. I know for a lot of people, they wake up and they're like, okay, I just need to have this moment with my coffee, and it kind of primes me for the rest of the day. And that's how I feel about my practice. It's like a moment to remember, okay, we're breathing, we're moving. This is how we are alive and like connected to ourselves and the world. And then we can do anything else. So
it's a great way to start the day. I mean, I think so many of us wish that we had the energy and discipline to do something. My routine is sit on the couch with a cup of coffee and stare at the wall. Yours sounds much more like enlightening.
Stare into the void. No, I mean, there is that too. Like I always think I'm in the first, to start the practice, you chant the opening mantra and then you start with sun salutations. I don't think I'm awake until like my fifth sun salutation. I feel like that's when I'm like actually awake fully. And then, of course, you are supposed to practice 6 days a week, but it's rare that that happens. There are times, you will get thrown off. It's never going to be perfect. And you just kind of do your best to get back on, to
Yeah,
get back.
that's true for so many things like going to the gym, learning a foreign language. Like it can be a lot. So,
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
think that routine can be a form of freedom?
Oh my gosh. Yes. And especially creativity, because I always think that restriction is a catalyst for creativity, because part of what's beautiful about Ashtanga is um, the repetition, right? So it can kind of drive you crazy to do the same practice every day, but what you end up finding is that it's different every day, because your body's different every day, your mind is different every day. So you might have a little cold, you might be a little angry, you might be really energized and excited. So it actually ends up being a completely different practice every day. And then, yeah, I think that routine is a way to make everything more interesting.
Yeah, definitely. You wouldn't think of it that way, but yeah, you're dealing with it in different emotional states and different feelings, environments. So it can be a little freeing, like to bring you back to yourself.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's the container and that routine that allows you to see where things oscillate and where things are different. So yes, I love routine.
So you speak openly about mental health. What made you decide to share that part of your story publicly?
Sure, this is new. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in my 20s, and this is something that I'm still like actively thinking about and finding the courage to move towards. And I've always spoken openly about it with my friends and family, but I really want to start talking about it openly and, in a broader setting, because for a few reasons. I think for me, I think talking about it is really therapeutic, and it helps me confront my own shame and probably stigma and shame from society about mental illness. And then, of course, on a second level, it's clearly a good thing for the world, for anyone who might be struggling with this or wondering if they have a mental illness, or if someone in their life is dealing with something like this, because it's really, really difficult to just love someone that's having mental health challenges. So, for all of those reasons, I'm finding the courage to talk about this more and more openly.
Yeah, and thank you for your courage. It's not easy to talk about ourselves in general, and definitely not the parts we kind of want to hide. So it's good that you can bring awareness to this and help other people feel seen as well. And do you think there are misconceptions about wellness that you wish people understood better?
Yes, yeah. I guess the first one is we think a lot about physical wellness and physical health, and less about mental health. And that's one of the things that has really helped me, is that just in the same way that we try to have a healthy diet and we try to exercise and get enough sleep, there are different things that we can do to have good mental health hygiene. And it's important to think about it in the same way. And similarly, along the lines of mental illness, like we can have physical illness, like diabetes and cancer and a broken leg, different conditions. And there are things that we can do to treat this stuff and recover and live a good life. And so I just think one of the most important things when you're dealing with mental health and mental illness is to really just talk about it, get help when you might need it, and get treatment if it's something that can really help your quality of life.
Definitely. I think so many of us are suffering in silence, especially in today's world. There is a lot going on. And even if
Yeah.
you thought you didn't have mental illness, you're like, maybe I do now because there's so many things happening out of our control.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And what does
Absolutely.
feeling well actually look like for you on a hard day?
Oh, on a hard day, I do not feel well. And I would say that I think for me, the most important thing is just being honest about that and knowing that um, it'll pass. Like everything passes. And even if on a day where I don't feel well, it's okay. And maybe as an act of wellness, I would say that one of my philosophies is radical self compassion. So, radically just kind of giving myself a hug in every sense of the term, like a physical hug, I'll wrap my arms around myself. But spiritually, I'll feel like the beyond is kind of holding me and supporting me. And then just, mentally saying to myself, yeah, the reality is I don't feel well today, and that's okay. And we can still make it through.
I think that's really good advice that we can all just, we're not always going to have good days. That's fine. Like, don't get hard. Don't be hard on yourself about that.
Yeah.
And there's something poetic about practicing yoga in a city like Paris. How do you experience that contrast? I feel like Paris can sometimes feel a little aggressive, a little busy. Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, and that is one of my challenges with Paris. It is, I live in the middle of the city and like a big intersection. So there's always like horns honking and pollution. And I think the trick to living in Paris, and this is a really privileged trick. So I have awareness about that, but I think it's about getting out of the city whenever you can. We have two big, like, bois, the big forests on the east and on the west. So Bois de Vincennes and Bois de Boulogne. I think just going out there and like putting your bare feet on the grass is a great thing to do. The other thing that I really like to do is I hop on the train and I go out west to Brittany, and being in nature is definitely the one thing that helps me kind of regulate and get back to myself as I'm living in a big city. And nature, I think, is like the ultimate connector for to ourselves and to everything else. So I think Paris is chaotic, and that's part of the beauty of it. And if you can get out and get into nature and then come back, for me, I feel like it primes me to just appreciate everything crazy and chaotic about the city.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's so important to leave when you're here full time because it can be very wearing on you. And my husband always jokes that we vacation too much, but I'm like, it's not a vacation. It's like I got to leave for my mental sanity once a month
Yeah,
just so I can
yeah,
keep my sanity.
exactly.
You need
That's
to.
also that's also the culture here. Before I was a yoga teacher, I had a CDI like full time working in tech, and we had so much vacation compared to, people working in the US. And that's kind of I've really adapted to that culture. We have a lot of vacation and we use it, and that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And everyone should do that if they can.
Yeah, if they can and not have guilt about it. I think it's
Mhm.
like de-brainwashing ourselves from the American way.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about Well in France, your role there. You're really centered on community. What does true wellness community feel like?
Yeah, I think so. For me, wellness, like I said, there's radical self compassion, there's practice. So for me, that's my yoga practice that I come back to that helps me feel well. And then the third component to that is community. I think if you don't have a supportive community, everything about life is just a million times harder. So, Well in France is the Paris wellness community for international women. So, we're a little over 400 women that most of us are living in Paris. 95% of us are expats, and we're all passionate about wellness in one way or another. And it's just become this place where you can really sometimes feel as an outsider, as an expat in Paris, because it is a crazy city. It is moving at a million miles a minute. There is some kind of coldness here, and it's a place where, outsiders can really feel like insiders. And it was started by Dominique Farrar, who is also an American expat in Paris, and she's kind of the queen of community. And she has built this beautiful space where we host monthly events, dinners, wellness workshops, and wellness retreats that happen a couple times a year. And yeah, it's really just a space where people can connect and build kind of deeper friendships. And
Definitely. I interviewed Dominique a couple weeks ago, and it was so interesting, the concept and the fact that that didn't exist in Paris and France already. So it's really a special thing you guys are building.
yeah, I think it's been a game changer, and that's the feedback that we get a lot of the time is that it just having a community really changes everything. You can have your friends and your family, and then if you have on top of that this group of like-minded people, it really just does change your whole quality of life. So it's beautiful.
So why do you think that so many adults struggle to find or build community today?
I think it requires vulnerability. I think to make friends, to make connections, you have to admit that you want those things. And I think it's hard. We live kind of in a production focused society where you're working and producing, and that doesn't always leave time to think about and space to think about our needs to be really, fulfilled and alive. And sometimes there's shame about thinking about ourselves and what we might want. And I think everyone's also busy too. So you don't want to feel like, this person's probably too busy to want to talk to me. So yeah, I think it just requires like being vulnerable and being honest with yourself that we do need other people. We do also just want other people in our lives and want connection in our lives. And that's a beautiful thing.
Definitely, yeah. And just admitting that is the first step, guys.
Yes.
So, what makes the wellness space in France unique compared to the US?
I love this question because I haven't lived in the US in so long. I do go back quite often, but I would say I think there's a combo in France. France is really good about like la joie de vivre. So just seeing the beauty in simple things and in small things. And this really resonates with me because sometimes when I need to kind of bring myself back in, I sometimes do this thing where I zoom in, like way, way, way in, and just think about like, okay, what is the sensation of the breath moving into my nostrils? Or what is the sensation of like my hand on this wool sweater that I'm wearing right now? And so it's like really just appreciating the tiny, tiny things. And in France, that can also be like just sitting at a cafe, drinking your espresso or having, feeling the sun on your skin. So really these like little, very simple things that actually, when you pay attention, feel really luxurious. And Paris definitely has that. Whereas maybe in the US, my conception of it is kind of like biohacking and maximizing for peak wellness and peak productivity. So maybe more of a yang approach to wellness, whereas I think France might be more balanced. There is kind of this softer, more flowing and an organic approach to wellness.
Definitely not forcing it and just appreciating the little things, definitely.
Yeah.
And how do you personally cultivate connection in your daily life?
I think, how do I mean, I think it's so easy for me because I'm in a role where I'm constantly I mean, my jobs are all really social, so I'm constantly, in contact with my students who are also quite passionate about yoga, with other teachers who, we're all on this same spiritual path together, with well in France, and constantly meeting new people and having space to interact with them. And then in terms of friends and family, I think that is probably the biggest challenge, right? Because even though a lot of my professional work is building connection, I think you have to be super intentional about maintaining that connection in other areas of your life, and especially when you don't live in the same countries. So I try to be really diligent about just getting back to my WhatsApp messages and not leaving people hanging. Um, I am like the biggest FaceTime person. I love a FaceTime. Anyone that knows me is like, you can literally FaceTime me anytime. Um, yeah, I think if you don't live in the same place, even if you do live in the same place, one of my best friends lives like just down the street, and we'll still FaceTime just to catch up. So use technology to your advantage.
I love that. I'm totally not a FaceTime person. I'm like, don't call me. You're always camera ready. That's awesome.
I love it. I don't think, yeah, camera ready, there's always love. The people that you love you, and they will, whatever your face is like, it is camera ready.
And do you see yoga as a creative practice?
Absolutely. Yeah. It is. For me, it's a deeply spiritual practice. And so I didn't grow up in a particular, like any religion or any spiritual discipline. But for me, it's definitely a way to connect with whatever the universe is, or the great creator, whatever you want to call it. And so I think as human beings, we are creation. And so everything that we do is art. And for me, yoga is absolutely a way to connect with that creative energy that is really beyond everything in all of us and inside of all of us. And then, kind of like what I mentioned earlier, Ashtanga is this container with limitations, and you're always experiencing the little differences that you notice when you're doing the same practice every single day. Then I guess the last thing I would mention is, as you move forward with your practice in yoga, the physical practice, you run into different limitations. So for me right now, I'm just having like a minor hip injury. It's nothing crazy. I don't really understand what it is, but the sonogram person said there's like liquid in my hip, which I don't know what it means, but I'm going with it, which has caused a little bit of pain and has limited my range of motion. So I'm not able to do all of the asanas, all of the postures that I could otherwise do. And that really requires creativity and thinking about, okay, well, how am I going to adjust this posture and adjust this practice, which can be quite rigid and strict, to still get all of the benefits of each posture and each practice. So yeah, I really just believe in kind of limitations really force you to be creative, and that's a gift. And then, when you're teaching, you're always finding new ways to transmit the teachings to your students. So there's a lot of creativity. I think it's all creativity. I think there's only creativity that goes into yoga.
Yeah, and I think that's a nice way to look at limitations, like because it forces us to be creative and to reinvent. So it's not always a bad thing being limited. And how do you stay inspired when life feels repetitive or routine?
How do I stay inspired? So I quite like reading, and I'm like super, if I were to say I'm really nerdy about one thing, it's yoga. And then the other thing would be like 19th century English literature. I love a tragic romance. Like there's nothing I love more than that. And so just reading a book, a novel that I like. And then right now I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm working through The Artist's Way, which is Julia Cameron's very famous book. It's kind of like a 12-week protocol on nurturing your inner artist and your inner creative and reconnecting to all of that. So that has been a huge source of inspiration right now, is reading through that book and writing and all of the prompts that come with that.
That's incredible. I always start it and I never finish it. So I need to finish the whole 12 weeks. It's always fun doing the morning pages and then taking yourself on an artist date and then I just fall off.
Yeah. Yeah, this is my first time doing it. And again, radical self-compassion. I'm on week 4 right now, but I think I've been doing it for like 8 weeks. So you just have to keep going. Just keep going, even if it's not perfect.
Yeah, come back, come back.
Yeah, exactly.
So if someone listening feels disconnected from themselves, their body, or their life, where would you suggest they begin?
I think they should talk to the people that they love and that love them, because I think if we stay in our own heads a lot of the time, it can be kind of confusing. And I really believe that conversation is a big way to connect to yourself. Because when we express what we're feeling to another person, you can really see yourself in that person and kind of clarify what you're feeling. So, yeah, I really think just find your courage. That's like my big theme for this year is courage. Find your courage and share honestly and openly. And if you feel like there's no one you can share with, come talk to me. I love, just having honest and open conversations with people, with anyone that's struggling, and anyone that, wants just a supportive ear, or someone to maybe confirm that what they're feeling is okay, because that's what it will probably come down to when you share what's going on.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And just getting out of our heads and talking to somebody other than ChatGPT, guys, talk to a human being.
Yes. Human.
It's very important. And
Yes.
how would you define creativity in your own words?
I think creativity is the one thing that defines humanity. It's like the one thing that makes us human. It's what makes us alive. So, like I said earlier, as we are creation, so everything that we do is art and everything that we do is creativity. So, every act, every gesture, every observation, we're always making meaning through these things and finding meaning and creating meaning. So I really just think that living our lives and really connecting to who we truly are and to the world around us, all of that is creation.
Well, I think that is a beautiful note to end on. And where can people connect with you, learn more, and follow you?
Yeah, so Instagram is the best way. My handle is Alejandra_yoga. So yeah, follow me on Instagram, DM me. Happy to get a coffee anytime. I love an in-person meeting. So Yeah, I'm in Paris most of the time if I'm not escaping to the ocean in Brittany. So yeah, DM me on Instagram and join Well in France. So that's wellinfrance.com or at Well in France on Instagram. Join the community and you'll see me there as well.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing today. And I can't wait to see what you'll do next.
Yeah, thank you, Crystal. Thanks very much for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.